All right, this video will be dealing with chapters 26 and 27 of Mounce's grammar, and we will be dealing with participles, beginning with participles. Chapter 26 is an introduction to the grammar of participles, and then the 27 starts us out dealing. That will be dealing with participles for the next 3 chapters after the introduction. I want to call your attention, first of all, to the overview and remind you the value of that going through this overview and kind of looking ahead at what you're going to be studying. When you get to the chapter 26, Introduction to Participles, the overview at the beginning of that chapter is also helpful. He talks about what participles is and how it functions as a verb and as an adjective, and has characteristics of both of those. I want to point out something to you now. I noted it in the PowerPoint, and but I think you'll find these 3 things very helpful in dealing with participles. Participles are complicated because there are a lot of different forms and there are a lot of different ways that they're used. But it's I think you'll find these things to be helpful. First of all, there is a Greek verb paradigm chart on Blackboard in the contents section. It's down past the week folders, week 1 through I think week 1 through 9 is what you'll have showing. But this was done by one of my former graders, and she did a very good job, meticulous job of putting all this together. And all you have to do is print it out or just download it to your computer and save it. And I think you'll find it very good to help you with verbs of all kind, but particularly with participles. So that's one thing. And then on pages 367 to 369 of Mounce is a chart that is going to a series of charts actually that's going to help you a great deal with the forms of participles of different kind. And then there's a smaller chart on page 283, page 283 in Mounce that also will be a lot of help to you. So if you make a note of that, take a look at it when you have an opportunity to do so. I think you will find it to be very, very helpful. Then in the English grammar of participles is also important. Make the comparison between the grammar that we use in English and the grammar that is used in Greek. So make sure you pay attention to that. Note that Mounce points out that you don't need to memorize forms in chapter 26. You'll pick those up in the later chapters. He's simply trying to introduce the grammar to you. So I encourage you to read that very carefully, where you will learn a great deal about both the verbal side and the adjectival side of the participle. Now, I could read it to you, but you can read it as well. And what we will do is, in our upcoming class, we will also go back over this to see if you have any questions or want to discuss it. So all the way through that chapter, if you'll read that carefully, talk about the other elements of the participle, and then he gives you an overview in 26:19. He gives you an overview of the following chapters that relate to the participle, and then his summary. So take a look at that. There's no vocabulary there, and no exercises in chapter 26. It's simply a read chapter, but it is important. So read it very carefully. Make sure that you understand it before you leave it, because it builds a foundation for you in studying participles. And then chapter 27 deals with the present adverbial participles. Mounce deals first with the adverbial participles, their function as adverbs, which means they relate to the verb, is what it means. And he calls them continuous participles rather than simply present participles, because he's emphasizing the aspect of the participle. And of course it does in the present tense, it does give you it emphasizes continuing action. The exegetical insight in chapter 27 is written by Dr. Mounce's dad, and he is an excellent New Testament scholar, and I think you'll enjoy that. But as you move in chapter 27, look again at the overview. It always helps to look ahead. And then look at the grammar, dealing with the summary of the present adverbial participle. This is very important, and I think you will find it very helpful. So read it very, very careful. Then he gives you a summary chart at 27.3 on the present participle, and talks about how it is constructed with the stem, the connecting vowel, the sign of the participle, and you will be introduced to those, and you'll see how important those are. They really make a difference in whether you recognize words as participles, but it does cause them to stand out some. So you have the new tall, which usually is preceded by an omicron, so it's ONT or aunt sound. And then you have the USA sound, which is the active morpheme for the feminine. And then you have the minnow sign, which is, or mine if it's feminine, which is for the middle passive. So you want to note that. He gives you several charts as you go through, and you'll see a summary chart that will be helpful to you as you go ahead. And so then as he moves in 27.5 into the present active participle, he gives you a paradigm for it. If you will learn that paradigm, it will stand you in good stead as you seek to learn participles. Let me remind you, if you learn the participle of me, then you will have the active endings for the participles, because that's what it is. It is the form of the participle for me, the verb to be, that is attached on the end of that stem that is used for the active participles. So anyway, you have a chance to look at that. In 27.10 is where that paradigm is. So I would learn that participle very, very well, and of course keep it with you as well. Put it in your notebook as a part of that. Then he introduces you to the middle passive participle beginning at 27.11, gives you the chart and the paradigm and other information about that. Read it very carefully and learn that paradigm as well. You will notice, for instance, in that paradigm that you already know both the stem and the endings of these participles. You've got third declension endings for the masculine and neuter, and first declension endings for the feminine. The only thing that's different here is just learning to recognize that amen in the middle there. That's the sign of the middle passive participle. So pay close attention to that. Then your halftime review. Make sure, as he says, that you understand 27.1 well, and if you don't, spend some more time with that, and then read the other items that he has there, and pay close attention to that. He gives you some translation procedures beginning on page 250, and it is important that you pick that up. Let me just remind you, and he does also in the way he presents this. The main thing is remembering that this is participles are verbs that end in ing, and so if you translate them that way, that's a good starting point. You will learn as you go along that you would translate adverbial participles often in temporal ways. You would use words like while or after, or even because. There's some context where that would come into play. But right now, if you just learn the ing translation of it, and when you translate it, start out that way, and then I think you'll find yourself moving on past that. At 27.15, he gives you a part of the participle morpheme chart, and he'll finish that out on page 283. You'll see the complete chart for all of this, where you see the complete participle chart. So what you want to do here is to make sure you read it very carefully, save what you need to in your workbook or notebook, and then do your summary, go through the summary, use it as a review. Make sure that you understand before you leave the chapter, that you understand these things that we're talking about here. The vocabulary is on page 252, so let's pronounce that if we can. We start off with anabino, and then the next word is archerus, and the next word is dexios, and then duo, heteros, euangelizo, theoreo, Jerusalem. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Jerusalem. The emphasis is on the omicron there. That's Jerusalem, even though I didn't make it sound like it. But then it's kathemai, and then katabino, and u. On the next page, there are three others: parakaleo, and then patho, and trace. Trace or tria, that's the word for three. Read again the advanced information. Go into it as deeply as you want to. I would say there's some very good information here, especially the exegesis section of it on pages 255 and 56. So I really encourage you to read that very carefully. Your exercise, again, I remind you, you have no exercises and no exercise in chapter 26, but you do in 27, and you parse 1 through 10, and then translate sentences 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Then you've got your weekly quiz 8 that comes up this week, and you will notice in the PowerPoint when you get to that, I've lined that out for you for each of the chapters. Recognize and be able to translate in the paradigms, learn the vocabulary for all of the chapters, learn the distinction in chapter 25 and the voices, and then in chapter 26, just be able to answer the questions on the grammar, just to make sure you review that, and then memorize the paradigms in chapter 27, plus you want to learn all the vocabulary there as well. That should take care of it for this as we keep moving on. So we'll see you in the next video.